I'm Aaron Dykes. This is the Infowars Nightly News. Today is Wednesday, April 18th, 2012.
Tonight, the Alex Jones exclusive interview with U.S. Senator Rand Paul as they discuss the expansion of the TSA and the constitutional violations of the Obama administration. Then, Oklahoma City bombing eyewitness joins Alex via video Skype as she reveals that she witnessed men in General Service Administration uniforms that were in the Murrah Federal Building before the false flag attack. A bombshell interview with Jane Graham. Next, President Obama has an ambitious plan to take command of the oceans and with it, control over much of the nation's energy in a move that can only be described as the ultimate power grab to zone the high seas. Plus, Goldman Sachs rules the world. Is the Bank of England next? And did you know that the national debt under Obama has increased over $5 trillion and counting? All that plus more of today's top headlines as we now take you to the Texas Central Command Center deep behind enemy lines. And Aaron Dykes from the Infowars studio in Austin, Texas.
And as we turn now to our top story, let's keep in mind we have been sabotaged economically, and the scales of inequality are beginning to reach a tipping point. Tonight, we have the $5 trillion man. Debt has increased under Obama by more than $5 trillion. You got to keep in mind that in the first 219 years of the Republic, all the presidents through Bill Clinton, the total American debt was only about $5 trillion. Then through the George W. Bush administration, we saw another $5 trillion or so tacked on. And now Obama has tacked on an additional $5 trillion plus just in his first 3.5 years of office, not even counting what he may do if he reaches his second term. And you just see as they inflate the dollar, deflate the value, allow the banks to take over more and more, this is where we go as they build the socialist, communist, Soviet, fascist takeover government. It's just disgusting. Meanwhile, the House Investigative Committee is focusing on the GSA. I think that's a department a lot of people weren't even keeping tabs on or aware of, the General Services Administration, which does general things with spending government money, I would imagine. Anyway, they are under investigation on the Transportation and Infrastructure Subcommittee, and the public figures say they're in hot water and ready to dismantle the organization over the $823,000 spent by 300 GSA officials during their luxury getaway in Las Vegas, where they spent quite a bit on entertainment. I'm sure it's a big scandal, really bad, but they're covering up for all the other things going on. They're focusing on less than $1 million when they're spending trillions and trillions and committing us to even more trillions. Remember, they already announced through the Federal Reserve government takeover that we're in the hole for more than $27 trillion. That's the scale of commitments we have under the larger economic bailout, the things happening in Europe, the things happening here with the 5 big banks, which brings us to the fact that the 2 big to fail banks are now much bigger and more powerful than ever. That's according to the American Dream blog. The Democrats, the Republicans, and especially Barack Obama promised something would be done about the 2 big to fail banks. Well, what's been done? Those promises have not been kept. However, the banks are much more powerful than ever, whereas at the beginning of the bailout, their total assets represented about 43% of total U.S. gross domestic product. They've now grown to having assets equal to about 56% of total U.S. GDP. And furthermore, the 5 big banks, which include J.P. Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Citigroup, Wells Fargo, and Goldman Sachs, are nearly twice as large as they were a decade ago. So you can see who's benefiting from the grand looting while we're distracted by the Obama presidency, by scandals in various government agencies, by celebrity news, on and on. They're just robbing and robbing and robbing. So what's happening in Europe? The takeover by Goldman Sachs is almost complete. Paul Joseph Watson has the report today. Goldman Sachs rules the world. The Bank of England next, and you've got Canadian Central Bank head Mark Carney apparently about to head the centuries-old Bank of England. like the Federal Reserve, it is a private institution that helps to loot the British government, subjects thereof, that is, as well as the rest of the world. And so it's seen as somewhat controversial that it's a Canadian set to be the first foreign head of the Bank of London. But A, he's a subject of the Queen anyway, and B, the Bank of London is foreign to what Britain stands for, even though the monarchy is not appealing either. The real controversy is that Goldman Sachs now has a number of very key positions inside the EU. Taking over the Bank of London would just be another step. You've already got figures like Peter Sutherland, member of Goldman Sachs, as well as BP from Ireland. You've got people like Antonio Borges of France. You've got Mario Monti, the technocrat, the Bilderberger, the Trilateral Commission member, put unelected to head Italy. Same thing with Papademos in Greece, and a number of other people like Petros Christodoulos. Mario Draghi is head of the EU Central Bank, so he's Europe at large, and you've got other figures in Belgium and Germany as well, really just solidifying this terrible takeover as there's all this pressure for more and more bailouts with the smaller European countries as that gets more and more out of hand. Who is soaking up the power? Not the money, the power. Well, it's Goldman Sachs. We just told you that. Meanwhile, the ACTA treaty is back in the news. Second MEP, second minister of the European Parliament, calls Internet treaty a threat to liberties. And so a member of European Parliament who was appointed to oversee a controversial global Internet treaty has called for the legislation to be scrapped just weeks after his predecessor. And so MEP David Martin replaces MEP Kader Arif as the EU reporter for ACTA inside the European Parliament. And David Martin, the new figure himself, said it poses dangers to civil liberties and outweighs any benefits, which just adds to the long list of complaints from the previous rapporteur for ACTA, MEP Kader Arif, who said, among other things, everyone knows the ACTA agreement is problematic, whether it is the impact on civil liberties or the way it makes Internet access providers liable, or its consequences for generic drugs or for geographical indications and more. Now, of course, we have also warned this week and sounded the alarm on CISPA, the other dangerous new treaty to control the Internet. And don't be fooled, they're going to keep changing the names a million times if they need to, because they cannot have a free web where you can criticize leaders and in an instant's notice draw criticism on the world account, on the world agenda. And so you also have to give a mandate to U.S. Cybercom so they could pass a cybersecurity agenda, legitimize it, and help further take over this country. And so you've got headlines just from today. CISPA will improve U.S. cybersecurity. Of course it will, because they want the mandate, as I mentioned. Web inventor Tim Berners-Lee speaks out against CISPA, and CISPA is dangerously vague, and certainly these are all just power grabs to shut down the free web. We've warned you about that. Another dangerous power grab in the physical world, mandatory Big Brother black boxes in all new cars by the year 2015. There's another Paul Joseph Watson article. They've got a bill that has already passed the Senate, and it's about to be, quote, rubber stamped through the House that would require all new cars in the U.S. to be fitted with black box data recorders from 2015 onwards. Just absolutely authoritarian. And they somehow claim that individual car owners would retain the rights to their data, but obviously it's set up so government agencies can get a hold of that data whenever they need it. And this is part of an ongoing quest for tyranny in automobile and transportation. Things like OnStar and others have already de facto put trackers into the cars. Now they're just going to do it openly and at a full capacity. And of course, the push to pressure car manufacturers to install black box tracking devices has been ongoing for over a decade. You've heard Alex and others warning about it. The 2006 National Highway Traffic Safety Administration encouraged but did not require adding these systems. So they're being put into cars you've already bought. But by 2015, if they pass this legislation, it will be completely mandatory. And as they build this Big Brother database system, this mark of the beast, even little things like having your inspection sticker out, whereas you might get a ticket now, you can get it taken care of you have a little bit of window. Once you're in the system, not authorized for that or any other reason, your entire life is going to be shut down until you deal with their system. And if they got warrants out for your arrest, they'll find you quickly, and you'll be doing jail time. Poor people who can't afford to pay some of these regulations will be doing jail time. It's just crazy. Aaron Dykes, this is the Infowars Nightly News. Today is Wednesday, April 18th, 2012.
Tonight, the Alex Jones exclusive interview with U.S. Senator Rand Paul as they discuss the expansion that were in the Murrah Federal Building before the false flag attack. A bombshell interview with Jane Graham. Next, President Obama has an ambitious plan to take command of the oceans and with it, control over much of the nation.
I'm
of the TSA and the constitutional violations of the Obama administration. Then, Oklahoma City bombing eyewitness joins Alex via video Skype as she reveals that she witnessed men in General Service Administration uniform